episode of the Minnesota Collegiate DECA podcast of the 2022-2023 year. I'm Nora, your state president of Minnesota Collegiate DECA. I'm here with Zac Spohn, past state Minnesota president of Collegiate DECA and past international president of Collegiate DECA and co-founder of Change the Culture, a nonprofit organization. And now he is a graduate student at St. Thomas for law. How are you today, Zac?
I am good. I'm excited to do this and be here with you, Nora.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be with you today. So when did you join DECA and how did you just get started into DECA itself?
Yeah, so a lot of people seeing this probably are mostly familiar with DECA from the collegiate context. I actually got involved in DECA when I was in high school, all the way back when. I think I was a sophomore in high school when I joined. I honestly joined because a lot of my other friends were joining, and that was as good of a reason as you need when you're 15 years old. That's how I kind of got started. When I was in high school, I wasn't the greatest student in the world. I had trouble focusing on things that I didn't find super interesting. I don't know, trigonometry or whatever we were doing in junior, senior, sophomore years of high school. But DECA definitely was the first thing I did in school that was interesting to me and gave me a purpose for being in school and taking things seriously. So it helped me a lot there. And because of that, I wanted to stay involved in DECA as I started college. I went to Minnesota State University Moorhead like you. I just graduated last spring, but when I got on campus back in 2018, I knew they had a DECA chapter, and I knew that was something I wanted to continue to do. So I got involved at my chapter in MSUM. I was a chapter officer for the following year, state president the year after that, and then international president my senior year, which was last year. That's the short-winded story. I guess it might not have felt short-winded, but that's the bullet points of my sort of how I got involved in DECA and where it brought me. We can touch on different parts of that more if you would like, but I'll let you steer us where we go, Nora.
Yeah, perfect. First of all, I want to bring up what made you stay in DECA. I heard you talk about your friends a lot, but was there things that really stuck to you into going into leadership positions?
Yeah, so like I said, DECA did a lot for me. I was not a good student, and I think I turned that around mostly because DECA made me realize that I needed to take school seriously if I wanted to go and do the things that I realized I wanted to do because of DECA. So because it did those awesome things for me, there's no way I college was sort of up in the air for me, let alone going to law school now. That never would have happened if it wasn't for DECA. So because of that, I wanted to give back. I guess I wanted others to have that same experience that I did, or provide that experience for others, benefit them in some way. So that's why I got into leadership positions, I guess, within DECA. That was my way to give back and hopefully be a small part of doing for other people what DECA had done for me. It didn't come without challenges, especially when you're as a college student as well. Most of my big leadership roles in DECA were as a college student during the pandemic, and sort of trying to balance everything and at the same time do everything in a different way than we had before because of the pandemic. But yeah, I definitely stuck with it because of what it did for me, and that's what made me want to get into leadership positions. And honestly, it's also I feel like I have leadership brain or whatever, where you're so used to talking about what it did for me and that's what it can do for you. But honestly, I think the main reason I stayed in it originally was just because I thought it was a blast. I really enjoyed it, and the things that it gave me along with that were just a bonus at the time when I first started, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Going back to the COVID thing and different obstacles of school, what were you biggest obstacles in all those leadership positions that you kind of faced and took over there?
Yeah, it definitely like I knew that it was by like being in leadership, you're taking on a responsibility and being a part of something bigger than yourselves. But you also have to take care of yourself too, I guess. But also like you can't like during all these times I was still a student, I still had other relationships and friendships and family to attend to and all those other sorts of things like everyone else does. So it definitely, all those leadership positions definitely taught me like, I feel like I got a crash course in like what not to do and what to do when it comes to like managing your time and like priorities and things like that. Like I feel like I got that way before a lot of people do. Like most people probably get that when they first get a job or they get in their career or they have that really demanding set of courses or whatever it might be. Like I feel like I got that ahead of time because of just all the responsibilities that come with leadership. So that was a big takeaway. And then like I said, like I was president of when I was president of Minnesota at Collegiate DECA, we had an in-person state conference in February, and then COVID first, like all the shutdowns and everything started in March of 2020. And then that was, we all know what happened after that. So like it was really just everything we were doing was not making it up as we went, but a little bit, right? Because like if we had never, no one had ever done like served in the roles we had before while in a pandemic. So yeah, challenging, but I think you learn a lot of things about yourself and like a lot of lessons that can be useful in the future.
Yeah, so learning a bit of like work-life balance and improvising itself is a really big point in
Yeah.
that one, I guess.
Uh-huh.
I understand that. Also, what is there like an advisor or some people, like some friends that really inspired you when going into DECA or throughout your DECA kind of career there?
Um, I don't know if there was like someone that I would say like inspired me to do something. I think that the cool thing about like don't get me wrong, that is the case for probably a lot of people, but like I think the cool thing about DECA in particular is like the organization itself and like its values and uh principles, I guess. Like that brand to me is the attractive part of the of serving in something like that. But and that's not to say that I've made all kinds of great friends and people and acquaintances that I would consider mentors and peers now. I've had, whether it's chapter advisors, whether it's our state advisor Jenny, whether it's uh, other officers I served with, like I consider all of them close friends now, and whether it's people at DECA Inc. too that I got to work with closely last year, it's uh, those are all like people you meet along the way. But I guess to answer your question directly, I don't think that there was any one individual that I guess really inspired me. And maybe that's a non-answer, but that's sort of that was my path, I guess.
No, that makes total sense, honestly, because you can focus on the organization itself and what it's done to people and everything like that.
Yeah, and I think that some people they do get into leadership roles, and there's nothing wrong with emulating someone else that has come before you, something or another. But I think that if you try to do that too much, where you try to like just copy what people the person before you did, or this person that did, and like their advice, like I think that really good leaders listen to other people and their perspectives, but like you have to do also what's like authentic to yourself and like lead in that fashion. Because I think without that authenticity, I think one, people can usually tell whether or not it's authentic, and two, like it's not it's not always the most fun to like try and pretend that you're something you're not, I guess, too.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like some leaders might have different goals and everything, so that makes total sense. Like focusing on yourself as being authentic to yourself and how you want to become a leader, because every leader is different in a way, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, going off of that, was there any like specific goals as a leader that you thought were very important when you were in office or like in DECA itself that you really wanted to strive for?
Yeah, so I think, like I said from at the beginning here, it was like I got into this because I wanted to be a small part of doing for other people what DECA did for me. Um, I guess I hope I did that for people. I think me and my different teams along the way hopefully did find some way to make a small impact in someone's life. Like that's sort of what the whole thing's about. Like uh, the cool thing about going through these cool thing, I guess maybe the easy thing about going, I don't want to make it sound like it's an easy job, but like serving in these leadership positions, it is in some sense like a stewardship. Like the operation is in place to make things go smoothly. And I think sometimes DECA officers mistake that their role is to remake the whole thing when they're serving these roles, that they have to make these broad sweeping changes. And there are leadership roles where that is the case, and oftentimes that's great. DECA usually isn't one of those things. Like there might be small things that we have to change here and there, but it's that there's nothing super big and broad sweeping that we wanted to change while we were in office. Honestly, a lot of my term last year was hopefully just like getting things back to normal, returning from a pandemic. And we also just wanted to make our organization like as much of a welcoming place for everyone as we possibly could. DEI was definitely a focus of my officer team last year, and I think we emulated the values that we wanted others to take on in the organization. So that was the big one last year. But I think that broadly speaking, my goal as a DECA was just, like I said, to be that small part of making impact in people's lives that DECA did for me.
Yeah, and focusing on those small parts to not looking over at the whole organization. And the like last ICDC when we came back was amazing. It was nice to see everyone. I think everyone was happy to see each other in person, and from different states, meeting everyone. That was really fun and really cool, and I was really happy that a lot of us were able to go to that.
Yeah,
Um,
I felt so old there. I was like I shouldn't say old, but like my first collegiate ICDC, I was a freshman, and then I didn't go to another one until I was a senior, and I was president of the entire organization. So it was like it's basically not a, was it like a four? It's like a 3-year gap.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it it exceeded whatever expectations I had to. I mean, it was just a thrill.
Yeah, and I was a freshman then, so I was like, wow, it was amazing. And I know a lot of other people that I talked to thought it was just so cool. The lights were really great. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a fun time.
Hmm. And like you said, you were international president for the 2021-2022 year. What was that process looking like as you were trying to get into being international, like exec?
Sure. It's so my experience was a little bit different than folks will be going forward. Before the pandemic, everyone, like the way you ran for office at ICDC, like that was how that worked. When I ran the year I ran, there wasn't an ICDC. It was one of the 2 COVID years, I guess. So we campaigned online, or yeah, online on DECA Connect, and if folks voted that way. We put together videos, websites, all that sort of thing. That's not normally the case. Normally you'll campaign at ICDC the first few days, and then at the closing session, they announce the new officer team. The process going through, I mean, it's kind of what you would expect, I guess. It's like a job. You need letters of recommendation. You need to get through a screening interview, and then you need to campaign and get people to vote for you. I guess campaigning and getting people to vote for you in the sense isn't a regular job, but everything up until that point basically is like you're applying for any other job.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you do a lot of public speaking for those kind of roles, those leadership roles,
Yeah,
especially. How did you become such a good, because I will point out you're a great public speaker. How did you get to
thank
that
you.
point of becoming such a great public speaker?
I feel like this answer I always have to this question is not super useful, but honestly, it's just like doing it. Like, I don't know, like I I still don't think of myself as like a great public speaker, but I think that uh, I've just gotten better at it by doing it and getting reps like this. Reps like we're like in the gym or something, but just doing it, I guess, is the big thing for me because I I still am not always comfortable doing it. I have spoken in front of big crowds, small crowds, and that I don't think there's a particular trick to it other than the more you do it, the more comfortable you get, the more aware of yourself and like maybe your tics you become, and how to like deal with those. It's yeah, it's not a super helpful answer. I will say I've spoken in front of large crowds, small crowds, whatever it is. I'm in law school now, and getting cold called in class is by far the worst kind of public speaking I've had to do yet.
Oh,
Um,
that's great. That's amazing.
yeah, so I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. I'm just it's useful for learning because you're always going to be prepared, but it's a different kind of public speaking for sure.
No, definitely. I totally get that answer because I feel you just have to keep doing it to understand how to do it and everything. It
Yeah, and it totally probably comes more natural for some people than others. Uh, I would I would say like it's a muscle. Like you have, if you go a long time without doing it, it's probably going to be more difficult for you when you start up again. Like I think I definitely like at the end of my DECA term last year was as good of a public speaker as I will probably ever be, because I will probably never do that much public speaking in a 2-year span ever again in my entire life. You know, it was like I was, especially by years international president, I was flying around I want to say it depended, but I did a lot of trips and a lot of speaking. And because of that, I got better at it and better at it and better at it. And now I'm probably worse at it than I was a few months ago. And that'll keep being the case because I probably won't speak that much publicly again for a while.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like no matter what, the nerves are never going to go away though for that. I feel like
Yeah.
you
And
just
I think the thing, like people like they, maybe like, I like, don't get me wrong, the nerves get better the more you do it, but I don't think that like ever completely goes away. And some people just like they want it to, they expect that they'll get to a point where it's just totally going to go away, and I don't think that usually happens for most people. Like I feel like whatever the occasion, when you have everyone in a room looking at you and wanting to hear what you have to say, there's going to be a nerve-wracking element to it a lot of times. Maybe not, but I think that that's going to be the case for most people, that you're never truly going to get a get a get a get rid of those nerves, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But you can learn how to use them and become more aware of them the more you do it.
yeah, thank you. And I think a lot of people need to hear that because people really want to learn how to public speak and really want to know how it goes. I'm gonna move on to how has DECA affected you today?
Yeah.
It's a big question, big
It
question.
is a big question. I I'd like to say that, I mean, like I said earlier, like there's nothing in my life that has made me realize that if I wanted to do the things that I wanted to and that I'm doing now, like I needed to take school more seriously, to be more accountable for my actions, basically. So in that sense, and just by doing that, it has prepared me for life a little bit more than I would have been, I think. But also, like, the skills you gain in competition are super useful. Like, I remember thinking this, like when I was in, I feel like I'm saying like a lot. You can tell I'm out of practice for doing this sort of thing. Like I said, the speaking in front of a class and giving a business presentation or interviewing for a job, all those things are easier once you have done them before. And DECA, you do those things in DECA one way or another. And that's like it's preparing emerging leaders and entrepreneurs is like the tagline for DECA, and all those taglines are like broken in my brain from all these years of doing DECA. But I think that they're mostly true. Like, I wouldn't be where I am without DECA and the skills it has given to me and the opportunities it's given me, especially in leadership positions. Yeah, it's a very broad question, but I definitely wouldn't be where I am today without it.
Yeah, definitely agree. I definitely agree. Those events really do prepare you for speaking in a lot of classes. I will say that's helped me a lot this year.
And I just want to differentiate there for a second. Like, if you're doing those things, you already have a leg up on people that aren't, whether that's in the classroom, getting the better grade, whether it's in those job interviews or some other competition. Like, you're giving yourself an inherent advantage that others aren't, I guess. And I if you want to look at it that way, like, that's helpful. If you want to do it just because you think it's fun, great. I think both things can be true, and because of that, it's usually it's a pretty awesome opportunity for folks to take advantage of.
Exactly. One really fun question I wanted to ask you is, so what are your goals for the future now, and now that you aren't a part of everything? That's a really broad question, I know. I just really wanted to ask that really fun question, since we know you're not here anymore, so we wanted to know.
Yeah. Well, survive law school, I guess, is one goal, and graduate, pass the bar, and get a job. I guess if we want to distill it down to the main goals going forward. But I also like I think I've been involved in leadership roles because I have been fortunate, I feel like, from the organizations I've served and the opportunities they've given me to be where I am today, have some measure of success. And because of that, I want to continue to do, even though if I'm not in those leadership roles going forward, like, I still think there's a service component that I've really taken a liking to, and I like it because you get to help people, basically. And I want to continue to do that with my nonprofit, whether that's I have a job where I'm fortunate enough to do that in the future, and continue to give back to organizations like DECA going forward, because I want others to have the opportunities that I have, and continue to make our world a little bit better of a place, and a time where I think we really need it.
Exactly. Thank you, Zac. This is all I have for you today. Thank you for joining us, and we will see everyone next time. Remember to get the edge this year.